Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play podcast. Heading into a mega week in the football calendar, we got Champions League, Europa League, Conference League matches all in the midweek, and we also got a double dip, an extra special FPL edition coming on the weekend with double game week 32 set to kick off on the weekend. So we're honoring the occasion by bringing in a guest, a legend of the hashtag FPLUSA community. First, let me just introduce myself. I'm Bucks, and we are joined by the best manager in the hashtag FPLUSA community. That's my co-host, Brian. Brian, say hi.
First time for everything, Bucks, but I am having a splendid season. We are, courtesy of our good friend at FPL Black Wolf. He has let me know that I now am number one in terms of their FPL USA leagues. So, there's still a lot of random U.S. citizens ahead of me in the FPL game, but I am firmly 3 points outside the top 1,000. So I appreciate that shout out. It's been a dream season for me. And I've been inspired by our guest who has been a mainstay in the FPL community and especially being one of the main voices in hashtag FPL USA. And that is Josh Landon of the famous Always Cheating podcast. Josh, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think I always felt like one of the challenges when you're having a really good season is to see if you can beat the there's the overall rank and the game week one team, and sometimes those aren't like completely aligned in because there's always someone who's just like who absolutely nailed it in game week two, or something like that. And so it's always fun to see. So you might find right now that you are whatever your rank is, that there's like somebody who's beating you by one who joined you a week or so later. But yeah, that's pretty awesome that you're up that high. I got up to around 500 on my best ever season.
Ooh.
I did that in game week 37. And then I slipped back down to 1.2K on the final on game week 38. And I will remember it forever. It haunted me. So and it was very simple. I couldn't decide between Aguero captain and Sadio Mane captain. I went Aguero, the safer pick. Should have gone a little more, been a little more bold. And as you can tell, that was like 7 years ago. It still haunts me. So make sure you get it right down the line here, Brian.
Man.
We're all rooting for you.
Yeah, I'm of two minds of it, right? Like at times I'm like, man, I'm like triple digit would be a very, very respectful rank. And at the other side of it, I'm like, I might not ever do this well again. And I plan to play FPL for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to enjoy it as it comes, but definitely been engaging with a lot of our guests and just hoping to stay on track. But it's chip season. We are nearing the kind of end game. A lot of chips, a lot of transfers, hits are going to be coming into play with these doubles and blanks coming up, depending on your strategy. So there's so much to happen and unfold. And then you have, like Buck said, Champions League. Oh, Arsenal today, your boys. Where did this performance come from? I couldn't believe it after not scoring many goals. Obviously, rice baby. What can you say?
I mean, he's been trying it all year. I mean, basically in what feels like every single podcast this season, I've been complaining about him trying to like just shoot Andros Townsend style worldies from, outside the box. Then he did twice in 5 minutes on the biggest possible stage against the toughest opponent. So, credit to him. I mean, I guess he was just practicing, just getting ready for the, Champions League quarterfinals. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, first time ever that a player has scored 2 direct free kicks in a knockout round of the Champions League. So amazing for it to happen for your team in a home match in, probably the most anticipated match in Arsenal fans' recent memory. I think that's easy to say.
It's awesome.
I mean, not to mention, like, Courtois was phenomenal in that match. He saved a bunch of other ones. And then just to have the 2 most perfect free kicks. The first one, the bend on it was just insane. Like that's a sports science worthy from back in the day. Put that on ESPN, study the bend in that ball.
I think, but yeah,
I'm happy. I'm happy for Arsenal, mainly because I despise Real Madrid. Everybody and their mothers plays with Real Madrid in FIFA and EAFC. And it's just like every time you load the screen, it's just like you're playing this super team. And they're OP for sure in FIFA, and it really frustrates me. And now I just dislike them in real life. So I'm rooting for the Gunners to pull off the upset.
You'll
Yeah.
never hear me say this again, Josh, but I too am rooting for the Gunners
There we go.
in that second leg.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think Real Madrid have won enough at this point. I think they can take a few years off, reset a little bit, kind of like the way Juve after the scandal, took a few years and went down a division. We need something like that for Real Madrid, just to reset a little bit. I think it's honestly having Saka back. I mean, obviously the Rice was amazing, but I think having Saka back has clearly rejuvenated the team. Especially now that he's able to kind of play, get a full start, and I think that. I just think that the question still with him is whether he's a fantasy asset or not, and I don't quite know. I mean, to be honest,
we'll discuss it at length here because Double Game Week 33 is right around the corner, and some big decisions to kind of discuss upon all the expensive assets that are underperforming. I think that's been over the last kind of 5 weeks. Salah's points have dried up. Palmer has been benched or rotated, getting over his knock, and then Saka's he comes in, pops in with a goal, and then he's not starting again the next match. So and not to mention I have this bloody Foden problem in my team. So even though my rank is very high, I have some stressful decisions coming up with these players. But on the flip side, I guess just getting lucky that none of them have delivered. So even though I'm spending 9 million on Foden, doesn't matter because all the other premiums are just getting 1-2 points. So in that way, I guess it's been good timing for all those points to dry up.
Yeah, perfect tease, Brian. You can tell the three of us are rounding into professional shape when it comes to content creation here. Let's first talk about Game Week 31, and then we'll also just preview what's on the horizon with Double Game Week 32, and also touch on, starting to plan for the chip season with Double Game Week 33 and potentially projecting out a little further. So without further ado, let me pass the rock to you, Josh. You're our guest. How's your season going so far? Have you wild carded yet? And what was Game Week 31? How did that work out for you?
Well, yeah, we'll start with the good news, which is that Game Week 31 was a good game week for me. I finished on, I thought it was good. And then I'm seeing all these scores, and you guys are doing even better. But I finished with 60 points. Felt very good about that. I got the brace from Jacob or from
Murphy.
Newcastle, from Jacob Murphy. Thank you. I don't know what. Yeah, from Jacob Murphy. Two kind of fluky. Well, I guess the first one was excellent. The second one was a bit lucky, maybe. Although I don't know why nobody from Leicester decided to track back when Fabian Schär decided to get it over.
Did you watch that in real time, Josh? Because the sound that ball made when it struck the crossbar was like doing, and then you're looking around, you're like,
nobody made a sound.
Leicester
it was like
defenders.
And then a collective gasp, and then there's Murphy, and for a second I was like, was he offside? Because it felt like he was so far ahead of everybody else, but and then you go back and he's well onside. So it was just a wild game week. So season is that was a good game week. Season's honestly pretty bad. And I think I hold myself to like I don't know, like I guess I do. I mean, I hold myself to a pretty high standard. I've had a lot of really strong finishes over the years. I was on a great streak of finishing in the top 10K. I think I finished top 10K 3 out of 4 years, and then last year was bad, and I sort of chalked it off as a kind of aberration. And now this year is like maybe slightly better, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Have I like lost my grip on things or something like that?
You still got your mojo.
Exactly.
We'll give you that affirmation.
Thank you. And we're exactly. And my goal is to talk about this stuff. Like it's advice. Maybe you follow some advice if you're so inclined. But the talking about it is what I enjoy doing. But yeah, I feel like I'm sort of waiting for things to completely turn back around again. I mean, no one wants to hear this, but it's still a pretty small sample, these seasons and these teams that you put together. And so I think, let's see. I'm still kind of holding on hope that I can crack the top 100K if I get everything right the final few weeks of the season. So that's the optimistic way, Bucks, for me to look at, where I'm at right now.
And what chips do you have remaining, just so the audience can get a sense of kind of your overall strategy as we talk about the upcoming game weeks?
Yep. I had a ton of injuries, so I had to free hit in 29.
Oof.
Wild carded in, which actually did work out okay in the end, just in the sense that it was a sensible free hit, right? Like my team would have been significantly worse if I'd taken like a -12 or something like
Right.
that to field a team. I guess I could have possibly wild carded in hindsight. I don't know. It's a bit tricky. Hard to do without the FA Cup knowledge, though, right? I
Sure.
guess we didn't know
Yeah,
who was
we
going
had
to advance.
Fella on who wild carded, and then he was just like thanking his lucky stars because the FA Cup draw ended up working out really in his
Yeah,
favor. And
exactly.
it's like
Yeah,
sometimes that's the
you
small
can kind
things, the
of.
small margins.
Exactly. You can kind of gamble sometimes and it works out. And I honestly feel like I've gotten a little too conservative this year. It's something for me to think about next season. It's not,
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure why that is. It's like a little more risk averse than I used to be. And it's not a quality that I think, I think it's my natural state of play. Right. And so I think it hasn't like, there are managers I think who are my friend Dave, who's been on our pod before a couple times, is this manager I think of just incredibly sensible, right? It's like somehow he starts the season with like what feels like 4 free transfers. It's like he's just constantly he's just constantly ready for any eventuality, right? And
Mr.
it's
Wegner Lodal. He's
exactly,
always yeah, I feel like
yeah,
whenever he's guest starred, he's like, "Oh yeah, I got 4 free transfers. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do." It's so
yeah,
lackadaisical about it, but you're like, "Man,
exactly.
I would love to stash up to 4 free transfers. I would be in
I
heaven."
know. And every
Do you
year he's like
think
a million overall, and then like the first few weeks we're like, oh, it's not going to work out this time, and then top 20K every single year, and so it's
Josh, do you
yep,
think that the changes that FPL Towers made, specifically those 5 free transfers, has that influenced? Do you feel like that's kind of why
yeah,
you're feeling that you've been too conservative? Maybe you're rolling transfers rather than making a
yeah.
move?
Maybe I think that's part of it. Although I honestly think it's like a kind of not to get all psychological here, but I feel like it feels more like internal. It's like I don't want
Like
to.
a
I don't.
self-fulfilling prophecy. You're
Yeah,
telling
I think
yourself you're
there's
too conservative. Yeah.
yeah, there's a bit of like a content creator's dilemma that you guys may be familiar with, as well, which is that feeling like, oh, I've got to go on and talk about this stuff, and it's just much less fun to make a dumb move when you've got to like go
Oh
in front
man.
of a ton of people and try to explain yourself after the fact. And it used to bother me less than it does now. I don't know. I brought in a player a few weeks ago, Dorgu, who immediately got a red card, right? Was out for
Ugh.
3 weeks. That honestly was what led to me free hitting in 29. So anyway, I free hit in 29. I wild carded in 30. And now I saved my transfer last week. And so I have 2 transfers going into 32. I actually may hold my transfer again.
Ooh.
And so for me, I have to be a little careful because I want to bench boost in 33, right? When you have all
Sure.
the doubles. But I also can't free hit in 34. So I have to be a little careful
Yeah, it's
about where
definitely
I
a blend.
go. And so I've got to kind of ideally bench boost with a handful of players that have at least an acceptable 33 fixture and also playing 34. So even a team like Liverpool, I've been looking a little bit at like Virgil van Dijk, for example, as a possible, because I have Gabriel. He's one of the players I brought in on my wild card. Of course, got injured in 30. So,
Yeah, I think Bucks and
and
I
so,
both have a
mhm.
Gabrielle-sized hole in our benches right now that we're gonna have to deal
Yeah,
with, but
exactly. It's probably you and everybody listening too, right? It's
yeah.
a
Yeah,
it's a
like
tricky one.
60% of active teams or 60% of teams, which is probably like 100% of engaged
Active
managers.
Yeah.
managers.
Yeah,
So
so you're in
you
a
land
spot
on
where
six.
you have to blend really
Yeah,
the players
which
that you're bringing
yeah,
in. You're going to have probably less doublers for your bench boost in 33, but if
yep,
you can get a quality single game week players in to fill that bench boost, then they feature in 34 with a decent fixture, and then you're in a good spot. Gotcha.
exactly. And I think I'll still be in a position where I have at least yeah, quite a number, maybe 9 or 10, I would think.
Yeah, it's solid.
Double game
Doublers.
double game weekers. So, I think that's fine. And I think it's also easy to we all get so caught up in double game weeks and then you often can just ignore really good fixtures that are right in front of you, right? Or for example, like Newcastle have a great well, again, it really just depends on whether you have a free hit in 34, right?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
that is the big decider, I think.
All right, so I'll go next. I'm also on 60 points. I know you were thrilled about the game week score. I had visions of grandeur because I was brave to captain Isak, and that was a captaincy fail in the final match
Oh,
on the Monday. But I'll take a green arrow any way I can come by it. So I'm up to 650 1,000 in the world. Not quite a triple digit rank, but I'm climbing. So we'll take that here. It's been a frustrating season, but I don't have any of those qualms about sounding dumb because I'm used to it in my normal life. My wife reminds me that all the time. So this is just for fun. And again, FPL is a way that gives me motivation to watch teams like Southampton, like Tottenham, like some teams that, normally I would have 0 Fs to even give them a scratch or, give them a whirl. And, in this situation, I know who the right back is for Tottenham Hotspurs, even though they're in, 15th place.
Yeah.
I do want to just shout out Dan, our co-host, who's, prioritizing his health and self-care. He lands on 65 points. He's
Top of the
turned his
totem pole.
season around in the last couple game weeks. He's up into the top 250K. He was right alongside me, kind of middling in the upper 6-digit range. And, I think he has a puncher's chance to finish inside that top 100K if his chips go well. And again, another green arrow. He was also on Isak captain. And then Brian, let me just hand the mic to you. The dream continues. I feel like, you're on 4 red arrows all season? Something crazy like that?
Yeah, seven red arrows. So it's been a lot of greens this season. Thankfully, I end on 64 points. I also had Isak captain. So I was dreaming a bit heading into that match that, man, if I can get just a single return from Isak, and then I got these other guys, but I had Livermento and Jacob Murphy do the business. Murph comes through. Oh my goodness. I can't believe, I had him come off the bench for Foden like 2 weeks ago, and he got his nice cheeky 5-pointer, and now he comes in with a brace. This guy's had so many returns for a £5 million asset. I know the whole season everyone's been talking about Morgan Rogers and his ascendancy this season, and he's obviously a very talented player. He's going to be a mainstay in the Premier League for a long time, but when it comes to value, Murphy, I think, for a lot of managers who are probably in the top 1,000 have really probably had him at key times during the season. And great to see that there are options in that price bracket. So I think for me, I got Phil Foden still in my bleeping squad. I got Saka in my squad. So I got X-Min's risks up the wazoo heading into double game week 33. But I'm going to kick that can down the road. Double game week 32, I will be likely using my triple captain, and then I'll go straight into bench boost and then free hit. So I'm really kind of dreaming about a great finish here in the 3-digit range. And, even like this game week, I feel like, I had a very template wild card for the most part. I had my team value, again, having a good season. So it was like 106. So I spent all the money to get Foden instead of Savio, where most people couldn't afford him. I'm like, oh, this will be a cool differential. And then it has not worked out at all. But, it is what it is. I still got a 41% green arrow, which now, at these ranks is quite key. So hoping for a great finish. And then, it's funny because we're concentrating so much on the chip use over these couple matches. I'm going to be taking hits in double game week potential 36, 37. It's going to be a little bit risque to end the season here for my strategy. But yeah, it's a blinder so far. So really enjoying it.
Love that. Yeah, without Black Wolf here, we try and keep it PG-13. So keep the risky business to yourself, Brian. Average score this game week was an abysmal 34 points. So we weren't the only ones with captaincy misses, to say the least. But we do want to just give a quick shout out to the manager of the game week in our free to enter Press Play Pod Premiership. And that's Mikola Grabanesco, squad Shami Mbomo. That pronunciation, I should get a gold star just for that, guys. I'm just saying.
I'm looking at the spelling. I don't know how you pronounce that. So well done.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
80 points, Assmanship active on Thomas Frank. They took the piss out of my Chelsea Blues for an extra 10 points. So bravo to you, Mikola. Awesome. 80 points in a game week where the average was 34. So a really huge green arrow, well-deserved. Let's take our first break for the podcast listeners. When we come back, we'll dive in to recap quickly the action in game week 31 and again talk about those doubles and some planning.
And we are back. It's time to review Game Week 31 pretty quickly here. Like I said before, a lot of the premium assets have not delivered, but we're getting some great momentum from a lot of our cheaper assets. Got to shout out again, Jacob Murphy, Morgan Rogers. If you guys pick those players up on Wildcard, you're sitting pretty. But Bucks, where do you want to start here? I think right now, with the double ahead of us, let's just first start with our analysis on what we saw specifically from Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Because if managers have not wildcarded, they're trying to figure out who are the best assets from those teams to bring in. So let's start a little bit there and talk about Crystal Palace specifically in their last fixture.
Yeah, sure. Great place to start. So Palace are an interesting team to be under the microscope right now. As you mentioned, they're going to double in the upcoming game week 32, and then they'll also play twice in double game week 33. So they have the unique advantage of playing 4 matches when most of the rest of the league is only playing twice. So for that reason alone, the fixtures aren't the greatest. They play away at Manchester City, followed by away at Newcastle in double game week 32. Not great fixtures, of course, on paper, but playing twice is more than playing once. And I think the spark of life is living
math you can
and
do,
having some fun. So I know I'm on a triple up. I think I'm probably not on the optimal triple up. I think the optimal triple up, I want to hear you guys who are having better seasons than my take. But I think Mateta and Munoz, for sure, you want to have both those guys. I have Sarr. He's kind of been the forgotten attacking option the last 2 game weeks since I brought him in. It looks like Eze is the guy who's a little more involved, but the price point was something that precluded me from getting him. So do you agree with that analysis, Josh? You think Eze is kind of bronze over Sarr?
Yeah, I'm in the same spot as you actually for kind of same reasons. And yeah, the thing is, it's hard to say whether that will last or not. I feel like they've
Sure.
sort of, for whatever reason, it does feel. I don't have these like the numbers to back this up, but it sort of feels like it's like one or the other.
Yeah, I
in these
agree.
recent weeks, and so I think Sars still looked good in these matches, and I think he's honestly played pretty well. In
Yeah, I
theory,
mean,
Eze is like
I got a few stats rattling in my head just to back you up though. Like heading
yeah,
into this game week, in the previous last 6 game weeks, he was the number 1 midfielder for XGI. So very involved. I think he had a
yeah,
brace in that time, maybe an assist. But these 2 back-to-back blanks, when you first bringing them into your side and using one of your coveted transfers or wild card, it stings a little bit. You're not trying to. He's 5.7 million, so it's pretty much a bargain. But you are expecting something, and to see
yeah.
the pedigree of Eze kind of ooze out. He had a great international break, scores an FA Cup, and then of course gets this double assist game. So. You're always looking the other direction sometimes at other assets, but I think it's more so because the majority of people went with Sarr just from his price.
Yeah, I think so, and I think Munoz is the I agree with you that he's the other kind of lock along with Mateta just
He's a
because
god. He's a
what's that?
god this season.
He's amazing, and
Nobody
gonna
else
be
is
6
scoring
million
points from
next
the
season.
defenders. No defenders.
exactly.
Where are our like expensive defenders banging in
Yeah.
goals? And he's the only one that's really done it
It's so true.
consistently in the back half of the
like
season.
Marcus Alonso level. I mean, it's the other side of the pitch, but like just that like so attacking. Maybe I don't
Marauding.
know. Yeah, marauding exactly. He's not quite like Trent because it does feel like he's a little more of a scorer than, but he's just a really fun marauding right back. And I think that also, I mean, defensively they've been spectacular, especially in recent weeks.
Especially at home.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
No,
they
and
do have.
away.
Yeah, exactly. And you just, could they pull off? I mean, Brentford just kept a clean sheet at Chelsea, right? Like, could Palace keep a clean sheet in one of these random matches? Maybe the Saturday morning fixture, morning for us in the U.S. at least, with at Man City. I don't think that's impossible, right? Like, so I think, I mean, Man City just went scoreless, on
Against
Sunday,
Man U.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Palace is better
exactly.
than Man U.
Yeah, so I don't think it's impossible that we get something from him as well. From like in other words, like there's sort of 2 chances I think to get returns from Munoz.
Yeah, the eye test on Munoz is like you kind of are like, am I mistaken that he's a defender? Because when you look at the heat maps, and this is what I was watching in that game against Brighton, which they won 2-1, he was positioned alongside and sometimes even further forward than Mateta at points when they like turn the ball over in the middle. All of a sudden, he's like playing out of position, second striker.
Yep.
So I think there's going to be a pretty significant price correction on Munoz going into next season. Not because Palace are such a dominant team, but because he's just a transcendent player at that position. I think under Glasner, he's really thrived.
One of the great buys from Palace too. I think it was like under 10 million as a transfer, right? So he was definitely a big pickup for Palace, and it's just interesting looking at the end of last season when Palace really gained a lot of momentum. They started off so shitty to start the season. I had Munoz for the first 6 game weeks. I had to wild card him out of my team because Palace were so miserable. And now they're really finishing strong. They're going to be fielding their best 11 when it comes to the FA Cup, and as will most of the teams, since that's really the focus, especially City's not even in UCL or anything. So really curious to see how that plays out.
The interesting thing with Palace is that rotation piece. And again, they are kind of solidly mid-table. They're having a quality season, I think, all in all. And Glasner's come in, and he's clearly made an imprint in that Palace team. It's really his own at this point in time. But I just wonder, as we get to brass tacks, they kind of don't have a lot to play for outside of the FA Cup. And so I think a lot of managers, myself included, we're going to get through these 2 doubles. And then I think the priority is probably going to be to fire sale a lot of these Palace players out of your team to get to players that are on teams with more to play for. And I think that's a great way for us to transition to talk about Newcastle, because this double is going to be huge for them. They will have a chance to leapfrog into the top 4 if it's successful. And again, it's coming off the back of them already winning their first trophy in for sure in my lifetime. So similar to you, Brian, and that season a couple years back with you, Josh, with the 1.2K finish. This is Newcastle's dream. This is their Van Gogh moment, so to speak. And they absolutely just destroyed. There was no PETA on the scene for what they did to the Foxes at King Power Stadium. 3-0. It was completely dominant. It was never close. And it was weird because, as an Isak captain, I was like, when's Isak getting his goal? But they really didn't need him to even get out of first gear. It was just, that team is just clicking in such a way. Howe clearly has his preferred starting 11. And I think they're going to be insane value in this double game week. I think they solidly have the better fixtures in 32. Don't you guys agree?
One of my strategies has been just really focus on home attackers. The crowd gets behind them. I just feel like they really try and put on good performances, and I've really focused on that for captaincy as well. So when it's been close, I've always leaned with the home team, and you go to St. James Park, it's rocking. So I'm just really hopeful that Isak especially is going to be healthy, because I think I'm going to play my triple captain on him this game week. He's had a great season, 10 goals away, 10 goals at home. He can do it anywhere, but I think the pedigree, they're fighting for top 4. They're also just in a spot where I think, like you said, like they've been putting in some good performances. If I don't do triple captain for 32, it's just like the unknown, right? It's like I could save it for a potential double game week 36, maybe City feature. Then they're going to play Southampton in one of those fixtures, but is Holland going to be back? Is Marmoush going to be, my triple captain use? And it's like, I just have more faith in Isak and his just overall, like, I think he's been a top 3 forward in the world this year, just based on his overall play. So I think that's where I'm leaning. Josh, you still have your triple cap left. Is that, in line with what you're thinking?
Yeah, it is in line with what I'm thinking. I wanted to see. I actually thought he was fine. On Monday too.
I thought he was good. He was fine.
Had a big chance. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was kind of a big chance.
Take that big chance for me, please. Please.
Yeah. And if that went in, maybe it's a completely different game, right? Maybe bags another one. But sometimes you get that feeling like when a player misses a big chance, like around then you're like, that
was it. Like, that was the moment. That's how I felt when Salah missed his big chance in that match. I was like, oh, I dodged that.
Brian, you texted me when Isak missed that. He was like, oh, that was our chance. And you were right.
Something Brandon and I would do. That's exactly.
Yep, that was it.
Speaking of Brandon, I just want to make sure we note the shocker, the performance of the weekend, of the performance of the midweek, excuse me, which was it the weekend?
It was the weekend.
It was.
It was Sunday.
All right.
You
The
lose track
performance of the
when
weekend.
you got multiple kids
Yeah,
running
who
around
knows?
your house.
It's all the same. That was Fulham. They absolutely had a delightful performance in front of the home crowd. They smashed and grabbed a 3-2 victory against league leaders Liverpool. And I think this is kind of like a free hit for Liverpool. This was a game that they could afford to lose. So they had their kind of eye off the ball a little bit. But shout out to Brandon. Shout out to all the Fulham supporters who have been loyal to them. They're solidly mid-table. I think they had dreams of European competition. And those aren't quite dead.
Alive.
They're not quite dead, especially if they can keep, bang 3 goals in every game week. They're going to leapfrog Chelsea.
Conference League or bust, I think is where they're thinking right now. So let's get in there. West Ham did wonders with the European Conference League spot a couple years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Take that extra money.
Our ex-Chelsea Blues supporter who does the music for this pod at Holy Pinto, he has converted from Chelsea over the kind of new ownership group, and he became a Fulham supporter. So he has season tickets.
It was motivated by the cheaper season tickets, I think, more than the ownership group.
lives in Milwaukee, but his family lives in the UK. So he was at this game, and it was just like after the first McAllister goal went in, which was sensational effort from him. And then they score 3 goals in 15 minutes. He was like, the whole place was just shaking, just out of control. And I think this was part of why I went with Isak. Like I'm bummed that I missed that cap, but Salah, he had 5 points versus Fulham in a 2-2 draw earlier in the season, and then they took the L. So I felt like I was vindicated in thinking there was less upside for a guy who has not scored an open play goal in 7 Premier League matches. Oh, where have the goals gone for these premiums? But great performance from Fulham, and I'm glad that my buddy was there to witness it.
Yeah, we can all have 11 Jacob Murphys in our team every game week. It's a shame. All right, last but not least, we do want to just say toodles, sayonara, see you later, maybe see you never to the Saints of Southampton, officially relegated. They then go and fire their coach like it was that guy's fault. That's just cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh, man.
Which is what they say about, being a Saints fan is just cruel and unusual punishment, whether it's in New Orleans or in the great country of the UK.
Little NFL drop there. Yeah. I mean, the 3 bottom teams, Josh, have just been target them, right? They've been so bad. Ipswich has had a few moments throughout the season, and it's kind of funny. Like, what happened? Like, Leicester in the first a dozen games were always scoring at least a goal.
Yeah, I feel Leicester are worse than Southampton. Bad.
They fired Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper is a competent manager, and they replaced him with a famous guy,
Rude boy.
He's very handsome, but he's terrible at tactics.
Looks like he'd be a good manager. I don't think that. It feels like I must be wrong about this. It feels like they have not won since they appointed him manager, and it's been a miserable
12 hours of scoreless football at their own pitch in front of their own fans. That is man.
The last 21 goals are all by the opponents at King Power. That's
that's great fans too. It's a real
Yeah, you've been to the King Power, right?
I have been to the King Power. It was awesome.
Very cool.
Probably my favorite stadium experience in England. Actually,
really,
I really had a great time.
What did you eat and drink?
That's a good question. Well, I ate at there was a supporter actually who took us out, and so we went to a pub beforehand, and so we ate there.
Nice.
So I mostly just drank. God, I wish I could remember what I drank. But it was this is back in March.
That's the sign of a great in-person viewing experience in the Premier League.
Not to bring
you drank your lunch. That's a popular thing to do in the UK.
Yeah, it was actually the last normal football game in England for a long time because it was not to bring us down here, but it was the last Premier League match before COVID canceled the season, or at least for 5 months. So the last game with fans and with a full slate of supporters in the pitch for a year. And it was crazy. It was a great, so maybe it has a kind of extra resonance for me because it was such an interesting experience, being there. But it was also a Midlands derby. They were playing Aston Villa, and everybody
Aston Villa, sure.
They were just giving it to Jack Grealish. It was hilarious. Loved it.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Those beers must have been like liquid penicillin to make
Must
sure you
yeah.
didn't get COVID.
Full day of drinking. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
All right, let's get back on track. Let's talk again, just double game week 32. Um, I told you guys my ideal triple up for Crystal Palace. What's the ideal triple up for players looking to get in, their third Newcastle asset? What do you see there?
Well, I think I was listening to Always Shooting Pod from this weekend. Josh's co-host Brandon, who's also guested on our show earlier in the season, he did not go with Murphy, and he's got Anthony Gordon, who
Oh no.
doesn't even make the bench. So that's a massive problem. And I mean, I'm sure you got a few text messages like, Jacob bleeping Murphy, are you kidding me? I could have
Yeah.
saved 2 million and gotten 21 points in 2 game weeks. Oh my goodness.
When it goes that bad, we don't even text.
Yeah.
It's too explosive. During
Yeah.
those moments.
Wow, we're the opposite. We're like part-time therapists in our
Yeah.
co-host group chat. It's like, don't worry, Brian. Sure, 2K will look great on you instead of triple digits.
Right.
I mean, last year, Bucks, we were in reverse. I had a terrible season last year, and now I'm on for a screamer. So it happens. When you play this game long enough, you're going to have a few outliers, and they go both ways. You
gotta
way,
laugh
right?
so you don't cry, right?
Yeah.
That's what Freud said once upon a time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Livramento comes in with his biggest haul of the season. He has not had many tackling returns, but it's good to see him come up with that first assist to Murphy and the goal. Josh, you alluded to it before, like the first goal, not luck, like that's his position. Murphy's supposed to make that run in the back corner, other side of the pitch, and Livramento put in a good ball. He's so far ahead of Burn in terms of those minutes and those returns. So I think Murphy, Isak, and Livramento, I'm super happy with those guys. What do you do if you have Anthony Gordon? Like, I can't expect him to come in and play 80 minutes. Like, I feel like that's a problem. It's worth the upside. If Jacob Murphy's going to get 1 or 2 returns, it's going to be probably worth taking a transfer for that, right?
You would need to see him happy and smiling on the training ground. Like you need like dated, like a photo of him holding like that day's newspaper to confirm it was, I don't even really know. Like I think, it's probably a little too risky to roll with him if you have him. And I think you've just got to move him on, unfortunately.
And then on top of that, you have Fraudward Howe, who,
can't be
usually
trusted
Edward
anyway.
is terrible at these pressers, and he says people are in walking boots, and then all of a sudden Anthony Gordon played the next match. Like that happened, I don't know, last season or something. So I just don't see why, Barnes is fine. Like he can deputize the left. I don't see Gordon coming right back in and then starting. And at that point, maybe you get a cameo and then probably maybe a start. So you're looking at 90 minutes at best. And I think, even though Murphy gets early subbed, at least he's healthy. He's confident. He's linking up with Isak. They have like eight or
he's
9 goal contributions together between the pair. So like they're in a good understanding. So I think you just save 2 million and redistribute that for other double game week players in 32 or 33.
So Josh, just want to make sure I'm hearing you. You think that, the advice you'd give to Brandon or other managers that have Gordon, just it's worth the free transfer. Just move to Murphy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
I think so. I mean, it always, it's never a fun move to make, right? It feels so lateral, but I think Brian just laid it out. The problem is you're just, unfortunately, especially once Barnes scored on Monday, it's like now he's got a little bit of form. It's gonna be even harder to bench him, or at least not give him some serious minutes over the double, right? Whereas it does feel like Murphy's a little safer on the right hand side of the pitch. I don't think we see Gordon and Barnes start together, especially given Murphy's form. So so I would make that move. And I think the way to think about it, if it makes people feel better, is this is not game week 4, right? Where you're making a decision for the next 20 weeks, right? It's like you got a double game week in front of you and just a handful of weeks left in the season. So, sometimes you have to make these moves that aren't moves you'd make early on in the season. Optimal maybe.
Optimal for long term.
One thing I think is like, the optimist perspective on Anthony Gordon is, you're projecting maybe 85, 90 minutes, maybe because of the way the fixtures fall. They have a Sunday and then a Wednesday match. it's not impossible that he could start against Crystal Palace in that second match on Wednesday, right? And then you say he gets 65 minutes there, and maybe he gets, 15, 20 minutes in the, the opening match against Manchester United. I think it's pretty safe to assume that Jacob Murphy is going to be getting somewhere around 140, maybe even, 150 minutes. So you're basically just making the move to get a full feature of an additional game. And I think, again, it's more sexy to do it as part of a 2 move, right? You free up those funds, you redistribute them immediately back into your team. But I think that managers who are even tight on free transfers, that's the move. Just getting a guy that is part of one of the most explosive attacks in the Premier League in 2 home fixtures. Done and done.
Yeah, and I think just throwing out another route that you could go. Obviously, Villa is picking up a lot of momentum. They're going to play PSG in the Champions League tomorrow, but Morgan Rogers is rounding into form at the right time. They play Southampton away this week and then have a double game week in 33, and then even potentially a double game week in 36, depending on FA Cup results and a few other bits and bobs. But, you could go that route as well and just fade Murphy completely and try and hopefully, spring that one, return versus Southampton. But it's going to be super difficult for us to understand where people are at in terms of expected minutes with the PSG clash tomorrow. So they're going to come into our thoughts very soon, though. I know from me personally, like I'm trying to figure out who's going to be my Villa attacker for double game week bench boost 33. And, he's cheap. He's 5.6. He's been rolling all season. So that would be another route if you didn't want to go and especially if you don't have a free hit. These are things you consider.
That's good perspective. Though I will say that if you're at all considering and you still have the triple captainship and you're going to use it on Isak, that's even more reason that you should get Murphy into your team, because like Brian said, they have kind of been the Son and Kane of seasons past, where Murphy just gets so many attacking returns where he's just putting it on a plate for Isak. So you'd have, triple Isak, and then you'd kind of have a lot of the feeder points to him scoring. So it's like kind of 3.5, a triple plus captain, which is not great branding. So don't take that, official FPL Towers, please.
Yeah, it's also interesting just to tie this knot. I was just also thinking about like flashes in the pan at Newcastle, like Miguel Almiron. Like he went on that sensational run. He played in that slot, right? But I think Jacob Murphy is like he less explosive. Like he's not hitting Golazzos like Almiron is, but he's just like a good functional form player that's working well with Isak. And I just think his like routes to points are like relatively repeatable. And so I just, I believe in.
He's a solid squad player. Every team needs guys like that. He's a glue guy.
I didn't think he would ever hit these heights, though. I thought he was always like maybe like upside of 10 goal contributions in season. This year he's on 16 and counting. So pretty good for 5 million for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get seized by the St. Maximums of the world, Yeah.
What happened to that guy?
I don't know.
I missed the headband.
I think he's at Galatasaray or something in the Turkish
Didn't he
league.
Go to, he went to Saudi and got kicked out of Saudi league. Hey, it's a bad look.
All right, let's leave St. Maximin's name in the gutter, and we don't have to drag it even further around my rank right now. Let's go to the best fixtures to target outside of the double game week teams, because I actually think that double game week 32 lines up really nicely for a lot of those single game week players, like you shouted out much earlier in the podcast, Josh. So we just touched on Villa, and we also, said toodaloo to Southampton. Perfect, because they play each other at Southampton. I'm sure Saints fans will love to sit in the rain and watch their team get absolutely hammered. So what do we think? Is it worth going a game week early to get a Villa attacker in? Do you like that move, Josh?
I don't mind it. The problem is it's similar to Arsenal, where it just kind of depends on what happens in the Champions League, right?
Yeah, fair.
And
I don't know who's nailed for this team either.
Exactly.
Unknowns kind of thing.
Morgan Rogers is the one constant, it would seem, but even he might be at some risk. I mean, the problem is I guess it's actually a good thing from a fantasy perspective that they are also fighting for a Champions League spot, right? I mean, they can't assume that they're going to win the Champions League and right and get the free spot next season. They're not that far along, and so
Emery would say otherwise. That guy's
right,
a
exactly,
tournament
yeah, exactly. I mean,
master,
he's a
right?
shot
He's like, we
specialist,
got
right?
this in the bag.
He's genius, but but he's been rotating everybody again outside of Rodgers, and to the degree that I'm a little surprised by, honestly, I would not have expected some of the players to be rotated as much as they have. So I think that's the only thing that gives me a little pause. I mean, it is about as good a fixture as you can get, and I think also like I was talking about being risk averse. I think sometimes I have worried a little too much about rotation this season, and sometimes in a really good fixture like away to Southampton, either they come, even if they didn't start and they came on in the 60th minute, right? There's a good chance you could get something, from one of your players in a match like this. So,
Sure. Like
so
25 minutes of Rashford off the bench
exactly.
against tired legs. Yeah, you would
Mhm.
sign up for that if you knew for
Yeah.
sure he was getting on.
Yeah, exactly. And the player that I would actually really seriously target if I thought that he was going to start 3 times across game week 32 and 33 would be Marco Asensio, right? He's only
Asensio. Sure.
6.2 million, but I was trying to pull him up as I was talking here. I mean, he still only has 3 starts in the Premier League. It feels like a lot more, right? Because he's got 3 goals and an assist, and he's done well in Europe. But it's just, but again, like another example though, maybe it's worth it because um, in game week 30, 3-0 away. 3-0 win away to Brighton. He had a goal, an assist, and 3 bonus, right, in 25 minutes of match time.
I was going to say
Jeez.
26
Yeah.
minutes or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
I was
So,
watching that.
yeah. So that, if he was for some reason like benched, for example, for the first leg of the Champions League match, I think he could be a really interesting pick. Like a real like low ceiling or like a low floor, high ceiling kind of like if you just want to like take a big
Yeah,
swing
he's
kind
got
of
he's got the
option.
brace potential, right? Like
Mhm.
Marcus Rashford has also been playing well. I'm curious if he's going to start tomorrow
I
in the
know.
PSG
I
game. Like
expect he
obviously,
does.
I would think I think he got a full rest in the last match, right? So,
Right.
I mean these are just crazy signings from January. You usually don't see like this impactful of signings for a team that's
Yeah.
in Champions League or fighting for that spot in the league play, but they really made some shrewd signings to get just some really overlooked players and
Mhm.
hand them over to Emery, and he's found ways to make them productive. I'm very impressed with what they've done so far. So they're 51 points in the table. They're still have a shot at top 4, or getting in that 5th slot. So
And top 5 is confirmed with the Arsenal result today,
Was
actually.
that right?
is that true?
Yeah,
Awesome.
the
Wow.
coefficient is set. So now
That's
that
massive.
actually, I should have shouted that out earlier. That's a negative in my corner, but that
No,
means
it's
that the
good.
top
Good to
5
know.
in the Premier League will all get Champions League football, and that has knock-on effects, of course, to who gets Europa League and Conference League. So it just means that there's a lot more motivation for even teams that are right
Mhm.
now outside the kind of top 6. There's still a lot to play for, and you play for that chance at really achieving something magical, and that's what Villa are going for this season.
Yeah,
I think
this is
it's
a
easy
side tangent,
3-0.
but I think I've heard you, Josh, a few times say you have really enjoyed the new format this season for Champions League, and it's great to see a team like Villa still in it, whereas
Yeah.
Liverpool are out, City are out, so it just showcases the depth of the Premier League, which is obviously what we
Yeah.
follow on a daily basis against the rest of the world, and I want to see these top teams playing more often against the other leagues
Mhm.
across Europe, and having that 5th slot is really cool.
Yeah, I just wasn't necessarily expecting to enjoy it that much, and I think that's part of what's been fun about it. It's worked a lot better than I was expecting. I think because it just set up. I don't have to take us on a side tangent here, but like it just set up so
Go
that
crazy.
just that in my head I was like, oh, like we're gonna have too many, like it'll be too chaotic. But it just meant basically you had a marquee fixture every single Tuesday or Wednesday during the Champions League. There's always so if you could just there was always one really interesting match on every midweek, and I think that was really fun, especially for people like us in America who really can't. I have a meeting basically every single day, right at 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yep.
Like it's just whatever these matches are on, and so it's very hard for me to completely focus. But if there's one game on, right, like one game that's really interesting, that's a little easier for me to track, or maybe if I'm lucky enough, second screen. So
Yeah. It also helps that the Paramount Plus Galazzo show like actually is
show.
like they are on point with their cuts to the highlights. Oh my God, Peacock!
You
We talk
actually
about
get to
this all
see
the
the
time.
goals. Oh
Take
my
notes.
I know,
gosh.
just
Take
like
notes,
I
Premier
don't
League.
care about
Yeah.
this throw-in. Take me right to the goal that happened. And I remember watching the other day, and it's just like, oh, we're going through a VAR check for like a offside that was like clearly offside. Meanwhile, like
Yeah.
underneath the bar on the Peacock's goal rush, it was just like 2 other goals that happened. I'm like, cut to those goals quick. It takes 5 to 8 seconds, and then go
every
back to this
injury.
VAR call that lasted 12 minutes.
Every water break. I know. Yeah. Don't get me started.
All right, we're about to get canceled by one of the big media broadcast networks. Thanks for that, Josh and Brian. Appreciate that. Trying to monetize this thing eventually.
All
right, let's keep moving. Leicester at Brighton. We're not seeing any relief for any of these relegated teams, are we? I think Brighton have that comfortably. I think this could be a João Pedro, practice patience. I think if you still have him in place in your team, this could be a game that you had like circled on the calendar. I don't have that kind of patience or discipline. That's pretty obvious.
Much irrelevant. I think maybe there's a few people on bench boost that have an odd player from Brighton just for this match for bench boost 32.
Yeah, Dunk I think was a popular pick. Stupid was a player I was looking at.
I think man. I could easily bench boost in 32 and then triple cap in 33 because I have both Martinez and Konsa from Villa playing Southampton, but I think the rest of my squad, I'm just like, I'm not in love with it. I think mainly because, like we said, the Champions League expected minutes, it's just really hard to predict. But when you go to think about bench boost 33, we'll have these results done and dusted, and that'll really help kind of inform what we're going to do. So not only are we trying to swerve any injuries for a bench boost in 32, you also have that possible rotation. So I think 33 is just a lot safer if you're still up in the air. Like most people will have that decided, but
and that's a great transition to talk about Saka and Arsenal because they absolutely flew out of the gates. They put the sword to Real Madrid in the first leg at home 3-0, but Saka is a player who came off early. And there was rumors that maybe it was because he, started having tight muscle, a little bit of a niggle once again. And so I think, I know you're there already, Brian, with Saka in your team. Josh, are you a Saka owner right now?
No, I'm not. I sort of have. I have Foden too. There's nothing you said, Brian, that I disagree with earlier about Foden. He was kind of a placeholder for me, and I thought I would move to Saka in 33, and I'm still going to move somebody. But I guess I want one more week. Let me see. Let's get through game week 32, get through the Champions League, and then I think it's a little easier for me to consider Saka. It'd be helpful if Liverpool could lose one more time and maybe open up the door.
Sure.
Arsenal actually have a champion,
they ain't losing to West Ham, that's for sure.
Especially back at home at Anfield.
It's going to be tricky, right? Exactly. And so I think that that also makes it tricky because I think with the 5th Champions League spot now, if Arsenal can't win the league and they basically can't fall out of the top 5, and they're still in the Champions League, which they almost certainly will be. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We've seen bigger context. Yeah,
Don't say that.
Maybe I went too far there, but
especially at the Bernabeu when the La Liga refs are all on the payroll. I wouldn't put anything past.
They should be international. I don't think there'll be La Liga refs at least. But yeah, I think it should be interesting. But I think that if they're through, right. So again, I think that's what So I just think it's I think I'll probably still will get Saka going into 33, but I don't love getting him for 32. It just seems needlessly risky.
I think all signs. Again, I'm not an Arsenal fan, and I know you're much more plugged in with them than I am. I think all signs are pointing to a 3rd straight benching where Nwaneri will get the start, and he'll probably get to stretch the legs at the end of the match if he is fully fit. So
it's what I would do if I were Arteta, right?
Yeah.
So
they got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I have my eyes in this match as well, just on Kivior, because I need a Gabriel replacement. I might need to get some funds to upgrade Jacob Murphy to another Villa midfielder for double game week 33. So I'm like, is this guy nailed? Like, I'm hoping so, because I would love to go with him, because he seems at least healthier than Timber. Timber, every time I see him play, like, he looks good, but he always picks up knocks. I mean, he's like the defensive version of Saka out there. Like, he's getting treatment once a game, twice a game, hobbling off. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that slot, because I want an Arsenal defender, because you have in the double, they're going to play Ipswich in one of those matches. You expect to clean there, even with the couple of replacement players. But Ben White, he hasn't played much, so it's just an interesting spot to be in with no second attacker at Arsenal to come in.
I was going to ask you, you think Arteta keeps those back four as is? Because I'm kind of shocked that Kiwior got as many minutes as he did today in the Champions League. He was clearly the one that was getting targeted. And they have Ben White and Calafiori's coming back, and they have I feel like they just moved Timber to center back. That would be their most stout.
I feel like I don't totally understand the situation right now with Ben White.
Okay.
The thing with Ben White is he's quite versatile, right?
He doesn't like football, so he's taking his time.
Yeah, oh, come on.
So, right?
Golly.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, he just wants some time off, right? This is these guys all want some. It's like the World Club Cup, right? There's like give these guys some time off. But I think that I don't know why he's not. Like, it does feel like you could slot him in either as the left-sided center back. I can't remember if he's. It doesn't really matter though. But, like, whether you're right foot or left foot. I think that stuff's a little overstated when it comes to center backs. Certainly, like in a pinch, right? But I think, So I actually don't know. I don't feel super confident in anyone bar Saliba. From a defensive standpoint.
Yeah,
so
it's just so annoying, because
I'm watching
Saliba.
as well.
I started with Gabriel game week 1, so I had a bunch of value built up on him. He's sinking like a ship, and now I don't have enough money in one move to afford getting Saliba, and then also dealing with Jacob Murphy to a Villa mid. So, and I'm looking at other stopgap solutions for, like, is Timber going to play 2 starts and go off early in both, or do I just go with Kiwior? Anyway, future problems, but things I'm like actively monitoring, because I did not expect Kiwior to play the whole game versus Real Madrid, because it's obviously a super demanding fixture, and he's only played 300 minutes probably the whole season. So
I know, it's just got the first 2 starts, then didn't play for like 15 weeks.
Yeah. All right,
I should say this is the point.
We're going.
This is the point of the
midsection.
podcast. This is the point in the podcast episode. I just want to give the listeners permission to play your little violin after Brian was complaining about not being able to afford Saliba, despite his,
Cloud9 million team value.
Golly, you're really punching down when you make comments like that, my brother. So let's take our second and final break. When we come back, we'll dive deep into our listener mailbag and answer your community questions.
It's time for the mailbag. We are back to answer a few of the burning questions across the community. We really appreciate you guys engaging with us on social and sending us some of your questions via DMs. So first and foremost, actually, we have a few questions on Gabriel, who we're ending the segment with earlier. Roberto Hollis from FPL Yellow Army wants to know best Gabriel replacement on Bench Boost 33. Currently already has Dean, even though he's a troll, Munoz, Gavardio, Livramento. So looking for another doubler from Arsenal or City. And then there's obviously single game options. So, yeah, I mean, defenders
Adam
have
had
not...
the same question. Adam at Adam 171221.
Wow, you're reading
Chelsea
the whole
fan
handle.
down under. Let's go.
He's actually a Ann Arbor Chelsea supporter who's currently at the big old Michigan competitive team to Josh's Spartans. So
there we go. I know. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so
another Midwest kid.
Neither of us made the Final Four, so we're reset before football season. I think that if you are willing to kind of go with this Man City defensive resurgence, which it's possible. They look quite a lot better the last 2 weeks defensively, I will say.
Totally.
And we've seen this every previous season under Pep, right? He had some funny comment about Savinho that he was like not clever enough to play in midfield. Did you guys see this? It was like a weird, it was
I did
like
not.
classic.
Yeah,
Like,
and then it was part of when he was glowing up Matheus Nunez, I think.
right,
He
right.
was saying like Savinho basically is like he's just like a typical Brazilian. He just wants to have fun and on the pitch. And then he was like, oh, but Nunez, he's
Yeah, it was
right
kind
back.
of like
He's
it was kind of odd.
genius. I was like, whoa.
Only he could kind of get away with that, I feel like. But like if an English manager had said that, he would have been crucified. But I think that if you already have Guardiola, I do think that Diaz is a possibility. Probably
Oh,
pretty.
so boring.
It's very boring. I know. Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I've gotten boring in my old age. I mean, the thing is, like with Arsenal, I mean, they do have Ips. I mean, especially Ipswich away. I mean, do you just go for Timber and just hope that you get lucky and you get 2 starts from him? I mean,
2 early subs, right? Lock in those clean sheets at 65 minutes. Like
yep,
not the
get some
worst.
attacking returns. I
It's
think that
5.7 million right now.
Yeah, I
yep.
think the issue is Calafiori might be back fit. So that's really what might put the the fly in the ointment there.
I don't
I
see
think
Arteta having the need though to throw him right in. Like he'll start getting
he might if
25
they
minutes
beat
sub
Real
appearance.
Madrid, and they're
Yeah,
advancing in the
you could play
Champions League.
Calafiori in the left too, and
Yeah.
yeah, and Timber on the right. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
I think for me, I think, keep it simple. Wan-Bissaka should be on the list. He's been playing a lot better under Graham Potter.
Saka. What
West
the
Ham
flying fuck are you talking about? Where did that shout come from?
Oh, it's just a single game
Okay.
week, really easy. Play Southampton. You don't have to get greedy. And again, we're talking about defenders. And I think the moral that I've taken away from this season is how silly it is to really invest heavily in the defense. I think I've been caught out with Trent and with Gabriel and with Gvardiol, the 3 of them, for way too long this season. And I had to forego, really getting the ideal attacking 7 that I wanted. So that would be my guidance. Kind of bring Gabriel down to someone who has a double or has a really good single fixture, and kind of just don't think about it more than 5 seconds. Just pick your guy and move on.
I did say this at the top of the pod, but I do think that if you don't have a free hit like I don't, that I do think someone like Van Dijk or Bradley does make a lot of sense.
Sure, Bradley,
Because
love that.
yeah, because they're
4.7.
maybe especially Bradley, right? I don't think we're gonna see Trent. At least not for the next several weeks. I can't actually know. I can't remember if he's confirmed out for the entire season or if it's just, indefinitely. But
I think he's going to come back in, 35, 36, 37, get his Anfield send off before he goes to those
to Real Madrid.
bastards in Real Madrid.
So but they don't have any double game weeks, so there shouldn't be too much rotation risk. So, and then you've got West Ham, Leicester, and Spurs in the next 3. It's a great trio of fixtures for Liverpool. Bradley's, like you guys were saying, cheap, sub 5 million. So yeah, I think that's like not a bad way to go, especially if you just don't want to double up on Man City, which is understandable, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I own him right now, but I'm going to shout out Konsa again. If he's 4.4, he's playing Southampton this week, so you can start him in a pinch. Double game week looks pretty poor, but maybe you get 4 points, you get lucky, But I think it's also planning, the odds are from the bookies that City will play Villa in the FA Cup final, and therefore they would both double in game week 36. So again, like if you're looking for somebody cheap that could come into your side and you don't have a Villa defender, now is a good entry point. You start him this week, you get 3 to 5 points probably in the double game week, but then you have him for the later double, which could be a lot more fruitful. So, not a lot of choice for the defenders.
Lots of different flavors on the menu for defender replacements. I would say, none of them are like, dolce de leche. There's not like the best possible flavor that or in my opinion, honestly, it's like strawberry mango gelatos.
Bucks. I would have shouted out Cucurella and his paella, but then he just gets the random benching. But he's really he clean sheet, couple goals in those last 5 matches. They play Ipswich this week. They're fighting for top 5. They got Fulham, Everton in the next
the Fulham
couple
fixture
matches.
Just isn't as good. That's the issue because Fulham have been scoring. So it's really the way I look at this question is kind of like my 5th defender. I really just need them for that bench boost. You know what I mean? I'm like, Konza's my guy right now. I considered having Van Heck if I was on bench boost 32 strategy,
No,
or
that
a
dude got
stupid
sent
Ninian.
off. That guy got two yellows. He had a red card
I
in
was
the
going to
last
say, but
match.
he's a red card. So,
Yep.
those are the way I'm looking at it. I would like to have a Villa or West Ham defender if you are bench boosting in 33. If you're bench boosting in 32, kind of the ideal fixture is either a Villa or Brighton, because again, they're getting the two clear worst teams in the mix.
It's kind of interesting because the attacking prowess has decreased over the last 6+ game weeks. I think we're seeing less goals across the league.
Tired legs,
but there's really just no defenders that get me up out of bed. There's a few, and it's been pretty poor. So outside of Munoz and probably your Arsenal defender, it's been pretty drab as of late, especially when little Hall got injured. He had put a string of good performances together. No Trent, Gavardiol has been up and down because City haven't kept any clean. So, all right, let's go to the next question here, and that is one of the most important ones from the likes of FPL Theorist. He wants to know, what do we think on seeing Saka's minutes for game week 32-33? We talked a lot about this before, but he has his bench boost, so he's really trying to figure out if he should bench boost in 32 or 33. Tough spot to be in. You're going to be up against a lot of people using chips in this stretch here, but I would say manage your expectations. Saka will probably in the double. I'm expecting him to play 120 to 130 minutes. I don't think you're getting anywhere close to 180, but if he can get 2 65-minute starts, it's still probably worth your vice captaincy. I think looking ahead to 33, I'm probably going to captain Marmoush, I guess, potentially. It's going to be an interesting trying to figure that out. But if Saka isn't healthy, I would love to captain him if he was playing 90s versus the likes of Ipswich. But if you have him, you just hold him. If you don't, you wait until you bring him in 33, and then would bench boost then.
Josh, you agree with that take?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I'm certainly looking at bringing him in for 33 myself.
He's on my transfer planner right now, but I have to say that the security of minutes kind of looks a lot better for Marino, and that would be a poor person's guide to navigating the Saka X minutes issue. And I just look at that and I'm like, Marino is probably going to get 160 minutes, and he keeps scoring. So he might be my get out of jail free card in 33 when I look to kind of assemble.
Especially for you, Bucks, you're chasing a punt like Marino is perfect, right? Maybe you get lucky and he scores 2 goals, you get 14 points, exactly. Where people
he's in the right positions, which
are
is
holding Saka
kind of what I like.
And they get 3 points. So I definitely, I don't mind it. This question
let's go to our last.
This question comes from Adam. He wants to know, especially for Josh, I'm going to trample you there, Bucks. But what do we do with Foden? If anything, do we replace him with another Man City mid, or what do you do? So both you and I have this predicament with Philip Foden, just hoping for him to discover some of his form from last year where he was the PFA. I don't know what the Dusseldorf is going on with this guy this season. He goes through a couple little purple patches and he tempts you. He tempts you with his upside, and then you can't be seen other than in a Manchester nightclub with a few of the honeys. So what are you planning to do here, Josh?
Yeah, I think he's got to go, unfortunately. And I just can't trust him to start even probably once, but probably not twice in the double. So my plan is to bench him this week.
Ooh, interesting.
Which I hate to do. I mean, it feels ridiculous to do, but
£9 million player on the bench. Don't love that.
But when I look at my squad, it would either be him or Semenyo home to Fulham, and I honestly would prefer Semenyo in that Fulham match over Foden for Palace. So hold them and then move Foden to Saka for 33. That's my plan. If you already have Saka, I do think it's trickier. Although I think we have talked about a number of options throughout the pod that are varying levels of puntiness. I do think that. I keep forgetting his name for some reason. It's because he's not starting enough. But
Savio?
Marco Asensio. I
Oh,
continue to
yeah.
think Asensio
You
is.
love that guy.
I
It's
do.
the glasses. You're just both handsome gents.
Thank you. I know. I'll take that. Yeah. So I think that he is a fun pick.
Sure.
And obviously risky, but could be fun.
Southampton. So
Yeah.
One last thing on the Arsenal thing. I actually I didn't think I would say this when I did my wild card in 30, but I actually think the door is fully open to just swerving their defense. If you have Raya and you have Gabriel, just go double attack. It's a little more exciting.
Yeah.
It's much more unpredictable. And so I think it's probably more a recommendation for players that are chasing rank rather than kind of defending their position in their mini league or whatever. But I really think that could be a fun punty option.
Saka and Marino?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have both Saka and Foden this week. I could bench both of them. I see them both getting 1-pointers. Like it's not great to have invested over
giving us all a chance here in the FPL US of A.
I mean, I'm invested in 20 mil as 20% of my team value into these two guys right now.
Yeah.
They're coming off the bench for 25 minutes or not even starting. It's been
you probably have to start
for a while.
Saka, right?
Yeah, you have to start Saka. I agree.
Yeah.
Josh, I would press you. I think Foden is the right pick over Semenyo for that seventh attacker.
All right.
But,
well, let's.
What do I know?
Let's check back in a week's time and see.
So much of it is he going to start? You know, if you have a few good predictors thinking that he's going to start, then I would think about it. Is he going to play in the 10? Right? Like, let's think about the matchup against like Palace. They got some power in the midfield. Like KDB is probably not going to be able to keep up in that slot. Grealish, does Pep trust him enough to play there? So I don't know. Maybe Foden runs up and down chasing.
Yeah,
after
it is the early match. So if I can find a way to get myself up, if I can find a way to get up early enough, maybe I'll see what the
if my human alarm clocks oblige, Josh, I'll just shoot you a text with the starting 11.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, that sounds perfect. All right, guys.
All right, let's go to our final question. That's from my Cayman fan, aka Matt, and that's going to take us into our final segment, which is thoughts on captaincy. Again, double game week 32. We'll see Palace and Newcastle playing twice. So Matt just wants to know, is Isak still the clear favorite for captaincy? Any of you two bold enough to swerve Isak as getting the armband for your squads?
No. I mean, if Palace had better fixtures, then I could make a case for Mateta. I still can.
And
I
if
guess,
he was fully healthy too, that's the other thing. Like
I think Mateta, upside. You hope you get 2 returns, but realistically, you're expecting 1. And maybe the chance at a second. I think Isak, the ceiling is like 3. Yeah, Isak's ceiling is so much higher.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to make it easy as we transition to our final segment. Before we get out of here, I know we've stolen some of your evening, Josh. So we really appreciate you being an awesome guest.
Well, sure.
Transfer plans, captaincy shouts, and chippy chips. So I think we're all captaining Isak, as we just mentioned. Let's go with you first, Josh. You've been an amazing guest, and it's great to have you back on the FPL USA Press Play Pod.
Annual mainstay. We love having Josh on.
Yeah, thank you.
You're our muse. I'm sure Brian's told you, but I think you guys really gave us the kick in the butt that we needed to actually start this podcast. You and Brandon.
Good. It's fun to do, and it keeps you. It keeps you engaged, it keeps it fun. I think that's why a lot of people get into the content making business for anything, whether it's like whittling or fantasy, right? It's just fun to do it and talk about it.
Plus, you get to spend time with your good friends who now don't live in the same city as you. Like Bucks and I are California to New York, and it's just like a great thing. So now that Brandon's moved to Toronto,
exactly.
He's
exactly.
You guys are making it sound so nice. Some game weeks I just want to punch Brian through the screen. So
no, that's all part of it. You gotta live with the highs and the lows. Yeah. So I am leaning towards Gabriel to Bradley as my transfer, and then triple captain Isak, and and then hope for the best.
And that will
And how
put you
many?
with one free transfer to roll forward to double game week 33,
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. So I'd have
Okay.
2, in which case I actually might only use 1 in
Ooh,
33 on Saka, and then actually try to save 2 for the blank 34.
smart.
So then I wouldn't be quite so caught out.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
Plus,
it.
you're
So
gonna
again, just quick
use
recap. You're going
Bradley.
to triple
You can
captain
use Bradley.
Isak. He's going to be your captain, and you're going to move Gabriel, who's probably,
Out for the
locked in
season.
your third bench. He's done for the season again. You're going to bring in Bradley, 4.7 million. Spike maybe a 1.3 million that you'll have in your bank for future moves. I like
Yep.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Plus, like, we don't know about Trent, but short term, you have Liverpool playing West Ham at home, Leicester away, Tottenham at home. Like, those are 3 fixtures you definitely want
Yum,
Bradley
yum.
for. And then,
Yep.
maybe Trent comes back, but Liverpool has Chelsea away and then Arsenal at home, Brighton away, Crystal Palace at home. So a little bit tougher towards the back end. So even if you
Yep.
had to hide Bradley, on your
Cheap enough.
bench,
It's not going to ruin your
if you
squad
went with
value.
Van
Yeah.
Dijk,
That's why I
then you're
like
going to
it.
be, if you go with Van Dijk, you're kind of like start him every week because he's 6.3 million or
Yeah.
whatever. And
That's
he hasn't been doing jack shit for
Now, I think
bullet
we
headers this year.
talking it through with you guys, I'm feeling even better about Bradley, honestly. So that's kind of where I'm leaning now.
Yeah, and again, you're going to have
Almost
that
scored,
money
right?
to
Off the
spice
bar.
up the rest of your team.
Yep.
Spice it up. All right, let's jump to my team, and then we'll give Bucks like 5 seconds to talk about his moves and his OR later. I'm going to roll my transfer once again. I will have 3 free transfers heading into Bench Boost 33, and I might have to use all of them, to be honest, even though I don't have to. But this game week, rolling the transfer, we got triple up on with Livermento, Murphy, Isak triple captain, and then I have Munoz, Mateta, and Sar. And so hopefully those guys can come together, get double-digit combined points. That would be fantastic. These game weeks have been like pretty low scoring with captains missing and then just not a lot of goals from the top players. And I want to see some hundreds, going around the community in this double game week. That'd be great. Bucks, I know you used triple captain in game week 2 on Holland for 17 points. I will be modest. I'm just hoping for 10 total points from Isak triple captain. Give me 30 points. That's all I need. I don't want to be too greedy. Give me a goal, some bonus appearance points in the next, but I need 150 minutes is what I'm hoping for in this double. But at home, yeah, I hope he does the business. I just love him as a player, and I hope he stays at Newcastle rather than goes in the transfer market. I know his price tag is high, but I think it just gives another heavy competition in the top 6 when he stays where he is at. So that's my plan, and I got to figure out whether to start Foden or Saka or whoever in my
or neither.
team. Yeah, it's
maybe you just start Konsa. Start Konsa over both
benched.
of them.
I know, right? I got Konsa benched. I will be playing Martinez over Raya this week, so that could be a small differential. Perhaps we'll see.
Wait, who's the 3
concede.
defenders you're starting? You're gonna have Konsa on your bench?
Yeah, I'm gonna play Gvardiol over him, just the higher upside, because I don't want to go double defenses. It's too risky at my rank. Like I'll go for
Southampton. That's like the roll out the red carpet for points.
Yeah, but they're going to be use all their energy and focus, in Champions League versus PSG, and then they're going to lay an egg. I could totally see that, So yeah, I'm just going to start Martinez over Rayo. I'll have no Arsenal defense, and I'll just take that on as a small punt. But yeah, hopefully triple digits by the end of the game week is the goal.
Love it. All right, I'll go last and certainly least here. I will have 2 free transfers. I'm also going to roll. I'll be very boring. Captain Isak.
Good for you, Bucks. This is like one of the first times you've rolled up to 3 transfers this season.
I know. Well, I think my plan initially when I drew it out in a notes app was to just move Palmer to Saka here and get that early game in. But I think the potential for rotation and the Ipswich match, I'm just going to practice a little bit of patience. It's not great because I know that's not going to help me spike a massive rise up the ranks, but I'll have 6 doublers, and then next game week I'm well positioned to have, I think 10 doublers also. So nice. Not quite chippy chip season for me just yet, but the Bucks wild moves are going to come fast and heavy soon enough. So I'll be pretty disinteresting this game week, but like you both, just hoping for like 85, maybe 90 points. That would be great.
All right. That is a pod. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us to go a little bit long. We went into this. Let's try and keep it an hour. Obviously, we have a esteemed
Always
guest
happens.
on the show, and especially when you have three people talking.
And
great
the banter was excellent. I have to give us a little bit of credit there.
Yeah,
so
that's right,
you made it
that's
really
right.
fun, Josh. Thank you
Thanks.
for joining us.
Yeah, give us a
tell the
plug here.
listeners. Yeah, tell the listeners where to find your awesome
Sure.
podcast and all the posts and socials that you put
the
up.
Always Cheating podcast can be found wherever podcasts are listened to, and we're also on YouTube. And we usually record a live show at 8 p.m. on Sunday evenings. So if you want to watch the show live and you're around, it's
Jump
not
in the
easy
chat.
if you're in the UK, but yeah, exactly. But if you're US based, then check it out.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the content that Josh and Brandon have created. I think I've been a Patreon supporter of yours for many years. I bought you many beers over the course of time.
1,000%.
Yeah. Like Buck said before, like just love that you've helped kind of pave the way for FPL USA and being one of the mainstay podcasts. So we really appreciate you jumping on with us. And
My pleasure.
I think we've talked with a number of guests. Really heading into the momentum of World Cup being hosted here in 2026 and trying to get more and more of our FPL USA, communities involved and really just showcase, we know what we're doing around FPL too when it comes to the game, when all these Brits and folks come to our shores for the World Cup in 26. So yeah, we appreciate you as always.
Josh, don't want to let you go. I want you to be able to plug. I think you were teasing that you and Brandon might be doing something for Game Week 38. So I know we're both based in Brooklyn. So to all the FPL players in the New York City area, I just want to give you the floor to kind of tease what some of those plans might look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we try to go to our old haunt, the Black Horse, which is in Park Slope, Brooklyn, South Park Slope, Brooklyn, and that's so that'll be it's Memorial Weekend, so that's the only thing that's tricky. It's it's a bank holiday weekend this year, but yeah, if you're around, we'll definitely be there on Sunday. So yeah, more to come on that front. But thanks for the bonus plug.
Yeah, buy Josh a beer. Buy him maybe a cheeky shot if it's needed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see how I feel at the end.
I was going to say, I hope to be there, but more realistically, I might be in the labor and delivery room, keeping my wife company. And if I went to that, I would for sure be a dead man. I would be even lower than my rank.
Hey, set your bus team before you go to the hospital. That's
true.
Say less.
That's always cheating lore right there.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Josh, one more second before we get out of here. I do want to let you know that I am a crazy husband who wild carded from the labor and delivery room last year. You remember that, Brian? It was like 2 a.m. I was uncomfortable on one of those pull-out chair turn beds. And I was like, I think I'm just going to wild card. I can't fall asleep. And Brian's like, don't do it. You're crazy. You just had a kid. Don't do it.
You're lucky it was your wife's second kid. If it was the first, she would have definitely scolded you to high heavens.
You'll see there's not so much for the dad to do between scans and catching up on sleep.
Sitting you're laying on an uncomfortable couch bed for a long time.
All right.
Staring at your phone.
Yeah, staring at your phone.
At least we got the FPL app to keep us busy. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll catch you again for Double Game Week 33's preview, which we'll host very soon. Have a good one.